Welcome to our kitchen. To celebrate Saturnalia, today we prepare pork roast with an excellent sauce described in a satire by Horace, lived in the 1st century before the Common Era. We start with ingredients. We need pork tenderloin, muria, white wine, olive oil, saffron and fresh herbs, mint, oregano and rue. Saturnalia were among the most important holidays in ancient Rome, celebrated in December and characterized by rich banquets and exchange of gifts. First, we cook the tenderloin on charcoal. We cooked it for a bit less than half an hour, but the cooking time changes depending on the size. Our tenderloin was about half a kilo. We chose this recipe because it contains a series of ingredients that are mentioned by Martial about 1 century later among the gifts for Saturnalia, to which the poet dedicates the last 2 books of his epigrams, Falernian wine, Benafrum oil, muria and pork. Pork is our addition to the recipe, because Horace doesn't write how to use the sauce that he describes, but it seemed to us an excellent pairing. Muria is a fish sauce we prepared last week, which can be considered the ancestor of colatura di alici. In Martial's epigrams we find muria made with tuna, but all kinds of fish are suitable to make it. Its flavor is milder than the garum we made from the Japonix recipe, which is not a good substitute for it in this recipe. You find the links to both garum and muria in the description below. Meanwhile, we prepare the sauce. We mince the fresh herbs. Horace doesn't specify which kind of aromatic herbs to choose, just to use minced herbs. We used some of the most common in ancient Rome, which we have at the disposal in our aromatic garden in this period of the year. But you can choose others, for example dill, cilantro or parsley. Don't use an excessive quantity of herbs. The sauce is simple and very delicate, and too many herbs would overpower the fragrance of saffron and muria. To know more about ancient Roman foods, check out our new book, published in English and Italian, Ancient Roman Cooking, available on Amazon in ebook and printed editions. If you want to help us to continue making our videos, buy our book or merchandise and support us on Patreon. Pork was another traditional gift for Saturnalia. The past year we prepared the recipe for laureate pork from the Recoquinaria. You find the link to the video in the description below. Martial in an epigram sends a whole pig as a gift, writing that it was fattened with acorns among wild boars, and he hopes it will grant to his friend Mary Saturnalia. In historical Italian cuisine, pork has always been a traditional winter food, particularly suited for the festivities. However, Horace writes nothing about how to use the sauce he describes. We find it particularly fit for a lean pork cut, but also another delicate meat, for example veal, pheasant or goose, and fish like sea bream or sea bass, roasted or simmered. Then we pour in a saucepan olive oil, muria and wine, about the same amount of each. If you use a pork cut with a good amount of fat instead of tenderloin, use a bit less olive oil. Despite the apparent simplicity of this recipe, all the ingredients are precious and costly, making a sauce refined and complex. When from oil added raw on the sauce, once cooled down, was one of the most prized kinds of oil in ancient Rome. Pliny writes that it was the best among the Italic oils, and Marshall compares its fragrance to the unguents. We suggest substituting it with excellent extra virgin olive oil. We add the aromatic herbs and bring the sauce to a boil. Merum was, according to Horace and Marshall, synonymous with Falernian wine, one of the most costly and prized wines in ancient Rome. Writes Marshall that it is so good that even the best kind of honey, Attic honey, makes it turbid. This merum, the poet continues, is worth to be mixed by the cupbearer of Zeus. Muria, as we have seen last week, was a sauce used by plebeians instead of garum. But in this case the poem mentions a specific Muria made in Byzantium, surely a different product from the common cheap Muria. Then we add the saffron, stir the sauce, remove it from the heat, and let it rest for a few minutes before using it, to allow the saffron to infuse its flavor into the sauce. Saffron is rare in ancient Roman cooking, whereas, as we have seen many times, is one of the most used spices in the Middle Ages. This recipe is one of the few in which saffron appears. Like many other spices, we find it mentioned in Pliny's Naturalis Historia as an ingredient to aromatize wine. In the Reco Quinaria, it is used in the same way to season wine and salt, but it appears also crocomagma, a paste obtained by processing saffron, probably to make perfumes, since it was a common use of saffron, as we find mentioned in Plautus, Propertius, and Virgil's works. Saffron was cultivated also in Sicily, but the one from Coricus, mentioned by Horace, is considered the best by many authors, for example Strabo and Pliny. When the tenderloin is done, we let it rest for a few minutes. Then we cut and coat it with the sauce and a drizzle of olive oil. The flavor of this roast is delicate and refined, with the sweet aroma of saffron that blends with the seawater fragrance of Muria, and the complexity given by the aromatic herbs. The meat is tender and melts in your mouth, slightly smoked and delicious. A plate completely different from the ones that we tried from the Reco Quinaria, being absent some of their characteristics, for example sweet ingredients to balance the sauce and spicy flavors. However, it is a plate worth a try. In particular, it is a great plate to celebrate authentic ancient Saturnalia. If you're interested in ancient foods and flavors, subscribe our channel and consider supporting us on Patreon.